Thank you very much, JJ. Official welcome to everyone to this week's InstructLab weekly community meeting. This meeting taking place on June the 18th, 2024. I wanted to make sure that we open up our meeting today with important housekeeping reminders to everyone. First of all of our meetings are governed by the InstructLab Community Code of Conduct. So we treat each other in this community with kindness, politeness, and respect. So I know none of us have to worry about that, but it is a reminder we will always give. As I stated previously, these meetings are recorded and put on our YouTube channel. Please never feel any pressure to be on camera. You're also welcome to dial in via phone if you prefer not to be on camera or have your name displayed. People are welcome to interrupt at any time with questions. Please use the raise hand functions in Google Meet to let us know that you have a question, and we will transition to your question as quickly as possible. And if you want to chat real time during the meeting, please use the chat function in Google Meet to do so. We also publish the chat transcripts along with the videos of the call each week. And there is an attendee list at the end of our agenda for this meeting if you'd like to add your name and GitHub handle there. There is no requirement to do so. It's just if you feel like adding yourself. So going into news we can use for this week. InstructLab v0.17.0 was released on June 14th. So congratulations to the team for their release. I don't know if we have any of the maintainer team who has in-depth detail about the release on the call. I don't see them, so I will dutifully read through the notes. The full changelog is available to you, and this release you can install via pip install InstructLab, which is pretty great for all of our happy Python users. And one of the major features of this release is the redesign of the ilab command, which changes command structure to be group based on resources like model, data, taxonomy, and config. I do not actually understand what those words mean because I am not burdened by software development expertise. Does somebody want to quickly explain what that means for those of us who are excited about InstructLab but may not have the level of knowledge to understand what exactly that means?
I can have a go.
Yes, please. Thank you, BJ.
Right. So previously the ilab command, like we typed ilab and then you typed some operation, and that was a pretty flat structure. So there was just lots of different commands and they weren't sort of organized in any interesting hierarchy. So effectively what they did with this redesign is they sort of added some level of hierarchy. So now instead of saying ilab chat, you say ilab model chat because that's who you're chatting with. Or if you want to do ilab diff, that's really ilab taxonomy diff because you're doing a diff against the taxonomy changes you may have made. And so basically it's just a way of organizing probably an ever-growing list of commands into some hierarchy.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you have any scripts that are scripting this, you're gonna probably need to go tweak your scripts. But for the time being, there's aliases to the old commands, so they'll keep working. But you probably should make plans to tweak your scripts.
See, this is why we ask the experts. Tweak your scripts. All right.
Do we have deprecation notices for that there, BJ? Did we add deprecation notices that we're moving away?
I don't know that. I know they put the aliases in there, so the old commands still work. I'm not sure if it barks at you for using them or not.
Okay, just curious.
Mr. Asgar, would you kindly open an issue so that we can confirm whether or not we have deprecation notices in place?
Will do.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
I refreshed yesterday and the old commands still work. So the aliases are working.
Right. The aliases should make them still work. I just don't know if there's plans to one day turn off the aliases.
Plans to turn off the alias. Excellent. Thank you very much, folks. Okay, there is a wonderful new video on YouTube for those of you who are inclined to absorb information through video-based content. It's called What's New in InstructLab v0.17.0, and many thanks to Grant Shipley for preparing and shipping this video. We appreciate you, Grant. We are planning the next release. So version 0.17.1, the release date is TBD, but it's real soon now in days, not lots of days. We're just not going to commit to a specific release date because a few things are in flux right now. And there's going to be a ton of backports to the v0.17 branch. So those are also promising to solve a couple of issues that have come up recently in user chat related to the performance of model training on Linux. So if there are any Linux users in the house hoping to see greater satisfaction given the current release, hopefully with release v0.17.1, you'll see some improvements to some of the open issues around training on Linux. For those of us who may be new in our InstructLab journey and looking for a contribution that we can make, we have three, count them three, good first issues available on GitHub. They're largely updates to documentation to make it much more clear. And thank you to Mo Duffy for opening these good first timer issues. They are all linked in here in the agenda, and we'll also put a note out on the community mailing list letting folks know there's some good first issues to pick up if they'd like to, as well as make that announcement in Slack. But since you all are kind enough to attend today's meeting, you get the news here first. Ms. Denham, how may we serve?
So going off that point, since documentation changes are a great first issue, I can mention that to our lovely tech writer, Kelly, who, can probably find a lot more good first issues. And that would probably help her out as well. So I can talk to her about that. And the triage team as well, we'll keep an eye out for some good first issues as well.
Thank you, Julia.
Oh, sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
It's okay, go ahead.
I will also say, since we have at least one intern here, that great first issues are a really good thing for interns to try.
No pressure, Andy.
No, not at all.
But we totally love to see a contribution for you, and then we can celebrate your contribution in future meetings like these. Just saying.
Oh, look at this. It's black. New laptop for work. IBM sent me an upgraded laptop at work, more fancy.
Oh, what it feels
Celebrate your new laptop.
Shiny.
We celebrate your new laptop, BJ. And if Carol Chen was here, she would be celebrating her new laptop right along with you. So some other things that we would like to celebrate together. Last week, we had our first conference presentations about InstructLab that took place after the big splash rollouts at Red Hat Summit and IBM Think. So these were at a conference called DevConf in Czechia. This is a conference that sort of started as like an internal Red Hat all hands meeting to talk about all things related to the development of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and has now grown to an event that is about 50% Red Hat humans, 50% folks from all over states surrounding Czechia, so Austria, Germany, Slovakia, etc. Plenty of folks from the US contingent, and there were about 1,500 people there, so it was a great opportunity, especially to introduce InstructLab to a student crowd, because the conference takes place in Brno in the Czech Republic, where there are a number of fantastic research universities. So it was an exciting time to introduce a whole new crowd to all things InstructLab. We would like to give a shout out and thank you to Christian Himes for his talk, AI, Open Source Will Save Us, and also for staffing the InstructLab table along with our good friend, Jimmy Soyland. Jimmy, if I mispronounced your name, which I probably did, I'm sorry, but we are deeply grateful for you staffing the table. And we also want to say a great big thank you to our friend Cedric Clyburn for his talk, Going from Containers to Pods to Kubernetes, which included an InstructLab demo. Thank you, Cedric. Cedric also wrote a really cool blog post about InstructLab, which you can find on our subreddit, and I will add a link to our subreddit into the meeting notes real soon now. Coming up this week, if anybody is in or near Paris or has friends in or near Paris that they would like to send the way of InstructLab, our very own Carol Chen is going to be giving a talk with Mark Sturdivant, our fabulous colleague at IBM, on applying open source methods to building and training LLMs. We're also going to have a table at the event, and there's a pretty cool AI developer meetup that community group in Paris is putting on. So We're going to turn up there. Carol's going to give a lightning talk about InstructLab, and we're going to take people for snacks and delicious beverages afterwards. So if you have friends in Paris, please let us know. We would like to invite them for snacks and tasty beverages and get them some stickers and talk to them about InstructLab. So if you can hook me up with friends, you know where to find me. I am all over the internet. We are now to the end of our scheduled agenda. This is the part where we open the floor to any open discussion items people may have, and then we head into the introductions for people who want to give them. So, anybody got anything that they would like to bring to the floor today? To the ceiling. JJ, what's on your mind, friend?
I'd like to go ahead and plug the office hours that we should probably discuss. Because it turns out, Lisa, are you here? I do not know. Last week first of all, if you don't know, we have 2 office hours throughout the week, one for our friends in the EU and APAC, and then we have one for the US centric community also. If you check the community calendar, you'll be able to see what time it is. For instance, I'm in Texas, so I say y'all. Supposed to be funny. It didn't work. Mine is at 4:00 on Thursdays, and I believe the other one is also on Thursdays too, which is like 3 a.m. my time. So that's obviously not going to work for me. But the important thing is last week we had Lisa come around to the office hour, and we came up with a proposal for usability for InstructLab, because that's the whole point of an office hour, is to come and talk to somebody real time about what you're working with or what you're thinking about InstructLab to try to work together. The proposal is to build up a Mac app for InstructLab. If it's in the dev docs right now, I will bring it up here in a second because I want people to see this, because I think it's actually a pretty good idea for how we should be thinking about using InstructLab and what's the word? Adoption. 2 seconds, I'm sorry. Where'd it go? If I was smart, I would have already had this up. I don't know where it went. Anyway, but take a look at it if you can, because I think it'd be a good idea. Sorry, I'll find it and put it in the notes.
Are you talking about the thing that's in the dev docs repo?
Yep.
I saw that earlier today. It's in one of my many tabs. I'm not going to find the tab. I'm not even going to pretend that I can find the tab.
It's 94. Oh, it was merged. Oh, wow. Okay. My bad. It's been merged. So I guess we don't need comments on it, but there it is. This is, and the idea is, the idea, frankly, is the ability for us to get better adoption. I mean, I'm not pulling any punches. I help a lot of people getting started with InstructLab, and it's hard, right? Like, you've got to have some really good Python knowledge to be able to get InstructLab up and running. So if we had the same kind of ecosystem that Olama has created with their little application, where it's just like drag and drop, and you have a little, instead of a little llama up in your top screen there, you have a little dog, right? Like the little InstructLab dog. We can grow from there too, where you can have the local, because you'll have the model on your local laptop. There's nothing wrong with having, a chat GPT like interface to it, where you can talk to it constantly, or maybe even just like one-off questions if you want to, or more. It opens up a huge opportunity for adoption. So I'm very excited to see it got merged.
Thank you, JJ. And thank you, Lisa, for your contribution to this process. And as your friendly human who staps EMEA and APAC time zone friendly hours for office hours, we would love more company. So please come and visit us. We are fun, and we will have great conversations in our AM, coming to you live from Germany. Anybody else have anything that they would like to bring forward? Let us go into introductions then, because introductions are funsies. I'm going to go ahead and start with the people who wrote notes in the documents, since it seems that they are comfortable introducing themselves, and then I may kindly call upon some other new faces. And if you feel like speaking up, please do it. If not, that's okay too. I will go in alphabetical order by first name. Andy, would you mind telling us about yourself, sir? You can also say no. I feel like Andy may be camera shy. That is totally cool. Florencio, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, that what I put there. I'm a product security engineer at Red Hat and working on topics related to AI security and safety. So anything related to that or AI in general, I would love to be pinged and talk about it. And I will try to contribute also to InstructLab and to this community.
That is so terrific. Thank you, Florencio, and welcome. It's nice to have you here. I don't think I'm going to pick on Andy again, but I might see if Sarah would like to introduce themselves.
Oh,
Sarah?
Sarah would be happy to. Hello, Leslie.
Hi, Sarah.
And pardon, Heidi, thank you so much for saying hello at the beginning. Google had failed me, but now I have my mic. So hi everyone, I'm Sarah Coughlin, former Red Hatter. And I'm currently an open source community manager at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And I'm here because I'm super interested in this project, and it's great to see some familiar faces.
That is terrific. We are very happy to have you, and welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
All right, Andy, I might be looking at you, and this might be that moment that you ran to go and get a glass of water, and you're not there, and no one is judging you if that is true. And, you know, this is one of those moments where I always have this deep existential dread because I live in a building that has many apartments, and because my office faces the parking area, the postal guy always knows he can ring my doorbell and palm off the many packages upon me for my neighbors. And I'm always terrified that I'm going to be in the middle of a meeting with my camera off, running to the door as fast as I can, going like, yes, 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 I've got the package. And someone's going to be asking me some really important question, and it's just going to be dead air. So Andy, thank you for allowing me to have this moment of existential dread played out through your moment here. And we salute you, sir, whether you are here, away, or with your glass of water. That, my friends, is all we have for this week's InstructLab community meeting, unless there are any other things to say. So I'm going to do the countdown. Going once, going twice. Thank you all for your time and attention. Ah, JJ, woohoo! Look at that, sneaking in another wire. Go for it, man.
I do want to do. I mean, we talked about the office hours, but I do want to say the triage meeting, where if you're just stepping into this world, especially as a newcomer, believe it or not, the triage meeting is a great place to start. We talk about pretty much everything that touches InstructLab. We make the joke that it is where the rubber meets the road, because we have to talk about everything when it comes to triaging the PRs that are coming in and the work we are doing. In the situation we're on right now, also, we have an opportunity to do a lot of cleanup and actually smooth a lot of the wrinkles out of the pipeline because of how we are in the state of the project. So if you are trying to learn, I strongly suggest coming to the triage meeting. It is in the afternoon, my time. So I know it's a little inconvenient for my friends in the EU, but it's the best time we were able to get everyone to actually show up together. Leslie, how else would you describe that triage meeting?
I would describe the triage meeting as so worthwhile that I am online at 10 p.m. nightly-ish in order to attend this meeting. Like there's discussion of various open pull requests in order to add skills or knowledge to the model, but there is also a healthy set of discussions around topics related to AI and development. What is the state of the art around open source AI, industry, news that has just hit the press, knowledge sharing? Like I don't know. if you have to be online at 10 p.m., you go to this meeting because it is that good. And I do not say that lightly because I value my sleep and I am very willing to carve off extra time to spend time with these wonderful people while they are not only doing triage of incoming PRs for skills and knowledge submissions to InstructLab, but also just generally sharing the wealth of knowledge. And if you are like me and you are a nerd, but not a software developer nerd, but you have wonderful things to contribute, spending time with a group of people like this who are always there to explain to you the things that you don't understand and deeply respect you for the knowledge you bring to the table is sometimes a rare gift in communities. And I am very proud of the fact that the InstructLab community provides a space where that has been true since day one. And that is one of the reasons I am online at 10 p.m. to join this meeting. So heck yes, plug for the triager meeting, all of the plugs. And Heidi has her hand raised. She should say things.
So this reminded me of an earlier meeting where the question was put about the types of knowledge that people were interested in adding to InstructLab. And I don't think we really got any feedback to the community about the types of knowledge that they were interested in having added to InstructLab from the development team. I know that there's a plan for things to move from the fairly limited things that were originally allowed for input to broader inputs. And I'm wondering whether that's something that can be shared in the community meeting sometime in the future.
JJ, you want to take this one?
Yeah. Or actually, Julia, you spoke up. Go ahead. You know my normal spiel on it. I'll let you talk. I'll let you say.
So we have a dev docs for it, and we've been adding to it over the last couple weeks. Leslie did actually come back to us last week with great news that the was it the Gutenberg pages? Is that what it's called?
Project Gutenberg, ma'am.
Project Gutenberg. We are now accepting contributions from Project Gutenberg. So in addition to Wikipedia. As for the other suggestions, it has to do with when Red Hat Legal gets back to Leslie saying this has been approved.
And if people would like a little bit of the behind the scenes, how the sausage is being made info, it turns out in ways that me as an armchair lover of all things related to open data and open content and all of this, that, and the other, it turns out that it is actually really quite difficult to do blanket approval from a legal guidance perspective of various types of content sites. So just one second, change Gutenberg to approved. Watch me just create this pull request in the meeting to make sure the documentation is up to date before we share it. That's what I'm going to do right this minute in time. And I might just be slipping a PR over to JJ so that he can act my change.
I was going to do that yesterday, and I completely got distracted.
It's okay. We've totally been in InstructLab. It happens to all of us. So, for example, like I thought it would be a total no-brainer to say that we can submit knowledge from U.S. government websites because, as we all know, the United States produces government content that is in the public domain, and therefore we should just be able to hoover up all the things on like whitehouse.gov, for example. Turns out that there are any number of pieces of content within these websites, which are themselves licensed in the public domain, that are under different types of licensing. So therefore, providing some kind of blanket approval is difficult, and our legal team is literally right now chasing down to understand if there are specific ways in which aspects of different governmental websites are clearly ring-fence licensed so that, for example, everything that is in the irs.gov website that talks about how you file your taxes as an American expat living in Germany is clearly under a public domain license, and we never need to worry about any kind of copyright issues around ingesting that data. Which is to say that we deeply appreciate Richard Fontana and the Red Hat legal team for all they do for us. And I will be, I have a regular-ish meeting with them to follow up on getting more content sources added, but we are very happy that Gutenberg is now a knowledge source that is available. But I'm not sure we're actually answering Heidi's question, because I think I remember
No, you're not.
many moons ago, when our dear colleague, who shall remain nameless because I don't know that he has a public face on the project, was asking about, surely we want to be thinking about more extensive types of taxonomies and what kinds of knowledge contributions we would make to these highly specialized taxonomies. And how do we go about encouraging submissions from people who are subject matter experts in particular domain areas into these highly curated taxonomies? Am I remembering what you're thinking about, Heidi? Oh, yes.
Yes.
See, it's so great when I can remember the things. So the answer to that is, wouldn't it be nice if we had more brain cells and we could think about this problem more? So like,
it's okay if the answer is not yet.
yes, the answer is not yet. We
Okay.
didn't stop thinking about it for sure.
So from my selfish point of view, as someone who interacts with universities, it's not just a general question, right? It's a question with a purpose, because I think we can encourage a lot of students and researchers and professors to use InstructLab for things where they already own the content themselves, and they can, clearly demonstrate that they have provided it open source, blah, 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 whatever has to be proved. And if we think that that's a long and hairy path that's going to take a long time, then I won't encourage that. If we think that it's a short path and, is likely to come, then I would start reaching out to people, for those kind of activities. So it's okay if we don't know yet, but that's the kind of thing that I think would be good to give the community some guidance on when we can say something about it.
Yes,
Does that
ma'am.
make sense?
Absolutely. I think the answer is twofold. I think the answer number one is we don't know yet. Actually, the answer is threefold. We don't know yet. I don't know when we will be able to have a sophisticated dialogue amongst ourselves to figure that out. I think that what has been proven to us thus far in the life of InstructLab is that we are figuring it out as we go along, and I think that's okay. I would suggest that if there is a good time to sort of begin targeting student and professor populations to make contributions, it's probably after some of the tooling that the user interface working group is working on to ease the contribution pathway. So this is everything from like, what is even a YAML and how do I make a YAML so that this linter thing does not get mad at me, to how do I do PDF to markdown conversion in a way that will then be ingestible by InstructLab and will not create a pull request that causes the poor triager team to have to go and either tell me endlessly why they don't like my pull request because my markdown formatting is funky, or to go and hand edit my pull request for me because they respect my contribution and don't want it to go to waste, but they think you're probably not going to take the time to go through unhorking 85 markdown errors, because that's really where we are. So this is a long-winded way of saying that's coming real soon now. We want to say a big thank you to Anil Vishnoi, Brent Salisbury, Gregory Pereira, and Ming Zhao for chairing that working group and starting to make these improvements. And when that tooling is available, at that point, I think we go tell the whole world, show up to the party, and it's going to be great. And if we get so much interest from all of you making contributions that we can't get back to as fast as we want, we're going to tell you we're sorry, and we're going to consider that a good problem to have. And
Thank
JJ,
you.
I've been talking a lot. I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Heidi. Interrupt you.
No, I was just saying thank you.
We are here to serve, ma'am. JJ, what's on your mind?
Excuse me. So I guess the conversation went in a different direction than I was going to answer the question. But I was going to throw in my thoughts here, which is one of the stumbling blocks people get or have with how InstructLab works and the models that were trained is a metaphor that I've kind of come up with, which is not great because metaphors fall apart. but it's enough to understand the difference between spending the time with a taxonomy and the difference in spending the time with a RAG, right? Where when we are looking at the upstream model right now as a whole, I'm just talking about the upstream model in InstructLab. When we start thinking about things we want to put in the taxonomy, we need to think that as educating a librarian, right? What is AI? It is a very good librarian. It has access, it knows how to find data for you, it knows how to do that, but it also has access to a library of knowledge, right? Which is 9 out of 10 times a RAG, right? Where it has a bunch of data that have different books inside of it. To train a librarian takes a very long time, has to go to school, as we all know. They're amazing researchers as a whole. Taxonomy is putting knowledge into that librarian so it has it in fast access memory, right? Like it's putting it into the actual brain. The RAG is the books that it knows that exists, but it needs to look it up inside of it, right? It needs to go into the library. And the library can be as big or as small as it needs to be, but the taxonomy is attached to the brain, where the RAG is to the documents over in the building, if you will. And one of the problems we have as the upstream model is that we need to think about what we are actually putting into the brain of the librarian. And that's why if you go to that knowledge guide and you look at the things that are being approved inside of this, inside of the space, it's very generic, right? Mainly because we're trying to give very generic knowledge. I'm not overloading the terms, but bear with me, to this entity. So it at least has general things. I mean, I know for Red Hat Summit, we had to do Cotella 2023, right? I use that as a little bit of a punching bag, but it's true. It didn't know about it. So it was an opportunity for us to give it new knowledge of some new event, right? Which we could have had that information in a RAG inside of a document somewhere else, but this showed the process of going through this workflow. So when you start thinking and when you start talking to this about with other people, if you put yourself in that paradigm, you kind of understand the value prop of doing it. But when you start talking to these university professors or these students, the advantage of the InstructLab is that they can build the model with their own taxonomy tree that is now a librarian, if you will, that is really, really focused on, I don't know, gambling law in Nevada. I don't know. It's the first thing that came to my mind for some reason, right? But you get my point, right? And you can create that taxonomy tree that focuses solely on that conversation. Do you see where I'm going with this, Heidi, or did I lose you?
Oh, sure, you can do that, but they can do that now without ever using InstructLab. The attraction is how they can feed that back into the open source community so that other people can also have access to it and know about it.
True, but that's the challenge, right? Is that we got to figure out what's coming from
Yeah,
the,
no,
yeah.
I get it. I'm just saying, telling them they can do it for themselves is not gonna appeal to this particular group of people.
Understood.
They're not just looking for people to read their online book. They're looking to actually use it more than that.
Mm.
So we don't have to get into it here, but that's why I was asking, because I think we do have a lot of potential for people to interact that way, but we have to be careful and introduce it at the right time.
Yeah, well, that's the point of this meeting, is to have these conversations.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah.
Heidi, one thing, if you're being thoughtful in all of the right areas, and I wish that we were to the point where we could give fruitful things to the thinking you're doing. If you're already having these kinds of conversations, or even just tentatively telling the world of your academic contacts that InstructLab exists, one thing that I would love to know while we are getting ready for prime time is what is going to matter to professors and to students or graduate students about their contributions, so that we can make sure that their contributions show up not just in a way that makes them feel good and bountiful that they have shared their wisdom, but also so that it is, I don't know, cite me in a paper, help me get a job, get me some propers from my dean when I need fun, like whatever their path is to satisfaction. If we can help them get that as part of their participation in the InstructLab community, I want to know what that is and what it looks like, so that as we are getting to the point where we can take more knowledge in from the world, that path is not only set up to be an easier path and a delightful path, but also one that is going to help to bolster their professional and their professional success. Like, we're all about the personal success and the feel good in this community by contributing, but if I can give you something that looks good on your resume, heck, I want to do both.
Cool. Yeah. And I think Sarah also said that there were people interested in it from the HP perspective, and I'm sure there's others too. So just in case people are watching this and thinking it's all red hat inside baseball, I don't think that's the case. I think lots of people are starting to pay attention to InstructLab, and so having a better sort of roadmap of what they're going to be able to do when will be helpful in building that community.
Yes, ma'am.
Off of soapbox now.
No, this is my shame at not being able to further shard myself any further to be able to have already done this work. And we're going to, I love this. This is my forever InstructLab phrase. We're going to get to it real soon now. We are going to get to it real soon now. It's just the definition of soon.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
I had one point about this. So for some of the like very heavy academic stuff, not all of it will actually be able to be submitted because of charts and pictures and graphs and tables do not work well with the model. Some of those actually don't work at all. Tables don't work well with the model. Charts, pictures don't work at all. So we would have to, you know, think about how we would do a workaround to that, because sometimes in a textbook, a diagram is very, very important, and it can't always be like written out and described without the actual picture.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Julia.
Yeah. So
As of right now.
As of right now.
As of right now, if somebody's watching this in the future, hi, first of all, and second,
18, 2024.
yeah, as of right now,
Yeah.
we may have fixed this problem.
Yep, there are solutions.
Okay. I have had a silly idea. I would like to continue making these meetings more fun. And I would just like to issue a request to everyone in the room that if you can think of a cool, fun thing that we could do at a weekly meeting, like, show up with your dog feels very obvious and also deeply discriminatory to us cat peoples. So I already had thought of that one and discarded it, but I don't know, like, show up with your favorite sci-fi book, or I don't know. But if anyone has suggestions for fun, cool things we could do in the community call on a weekly basis, participate if you want, no harm, no foul if you do not wish. Please hit me up. I would love to know what they are. I think I might propose for next week's meeting, bring your favorite piece of science fiction or fantasy literature and show up with my brand new Terry Pratchett, because I just finished the Tiffany Aching series with my kid, and I think everyone needs to know about this. It's not just all AI up in here. We also have a good time with AI and without it. So I am L. Hawthorne at redhat.com. I am impossible to not find on the internet. You can ping me anywhere. Be kind, polite, and respectful when you do, but you can ping me anywhere. And I have just gotten a private message saying show and tell is good for virtual meetings. We may have some show and some tell. I may show off and tell some Terry Pratchett stories. All right, friends. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for sticking with us through this fabulous community meeting. We will see you at the same bat time, same bat channel next week. And a new feature for our meeting starting next week is actually, we have started doing more sophisticated charts and graphs related to InstructLab and people in our community and stuff. So we're going to try and put in a little spotlight for InstructLab by the numbers, and maybe show some graphs about our GitHub contributions statistics and things like that for all of us data visualization nerds. So we look forward to sharing that with you next week. Cheers,
Thank
folks.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Leslie.
Take care, folks. Bye.
Thanks, Leslie.